Okay, thank you very much. This gag order is not only unique, it's totally unconstitutional. I'm the Republican candidate for President of the United States. I received this honor in record time. Nobody's ever gone faster. It's never happened. Nobody's ever got the numbers that we got. And I'm sitting in a courthouse all day long listening to this stuff.
I mean, when you really think about it, it is an indictment on Joe Biden that Donald Trump is stuck in court for much of this election cycle and the polls have them neck and neck. But nonetheless, Trump was slapped with fines today over his inability to keep his mouth shut and abide by the gag order issued to him in New York's hush money criminal case. Now, the judge overseeing the case has held Trump in contempt for violating this gag order 9 separate times. Now, the judge determined that Trump had flouted the gag order by making 9 public statements on social media, Truth Social, of course, and on his campaign website as well, in which he attacked both witnesses and the jury, meaning the jury that will deliberate and decide whether or not Donald Trump is guilty. Now, the judge fined Trump $1,000 for each violation for a total of $9,000, which isn't much money. It's a drop in the bucket for someone like Trump. I totally understand that. And the judge is gonna explain why that number is so low in just a minute. But the judge also warned in the decision that he would not tolerate further violations of the order and said that if necessary and appropriate under the circumstances, he would impose an incarceratory punishment on the former president, AKA jail. Now, the judge also explained that because the fines, which are limited by state law, were relatively little in comparison to Trump's wealth, he might be unlikely to deter, or they might be unlikely to deter the former president from abiding by the court's order. The judge said that while he would prefer to impose commensurately larger fines, he instead had to consider whether in some instances jail may be a necessary punishment. Now, we'll see. I don't think Trump is gonna abide by the gag order. I would be shocked if he was ever ordered to serve any time behind bars. Nonetheless, Trump, Jesse Waters weighed in and was very offended by what the judge did today. Let's watch.
They are threatening to throw the Republican nominee for president in jail for talking, Harris, for talking during an election. Now, I'm not a lawyer, just play one on TV, but according to the gag, you could have the Loch Ness Monster as a juror and Trump can't say the Loch Ness Monster is real. That's $1,000, boom, right there. It's not fair, it's unconstitutional, and it goes against everything that this country stands for.
So I'm gonna give you an example of one of the posts that Trump put out. But before I do, just a note, the judge also ordered him to take the post down by 2:15 p.m. today, which he did do. So before I get to some of the examples of what he had posted, Cenk, what do you think about this gag order being violated and the fines that came along with it?
Pausing here to deliver some honest truth as we do in our news coverage as well. TYT is facing challenges, guys, as the entire industry is. You know who could make the difference? You. If you hit the join button below, it's gonna make all the difference and keep us in business. We appreciate you, thank you. All right, I'm in a cranky mood. So I can't understand why it's so hard for MAGA to understand this. And it's because they don't wanna understand it. During a trial, you cannot attack the jurors. Do you think that you have a right to attack the jurors publicly?
He does, he totally does.
I mean, Trump thinks it, but I'm asking right-wing media is maybe I could find 2 people that aren't incredible liars, but everyone else, 98% of right-wing media, if they're talking, they're lying, okay? So Jesse Waters, etc., they're trying to trick you. Oh my God, he just wanted to have a roast beef sandwich and they told him you have no free speech. You're not allowed to talk at all. He was just gonna make a campaign point, but they wouldn't let him. They're just abusing this poor little victim. In reality, he's saying things that the judge told him you can't say because you can't threaten the jury, you can't threaten the court members. By the way, the judge allows Trump to threaten him.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, he says you can say anything you want about me.
He is allowed to threaten the judge.
Yeah, and which is unprecedented. But he's like, okay, I've got a weirdo fascist over here, so I guess I'll let him rip into me, but I'm not gonna let him rip into the jury, etc. This is just like the simplest rules designed so that mobsters don't intimidate the jury. But now your guy is a criminal, so now all of you guys are like, oh yeah, of course you should have freedom of speech to intimidate the jury. Maybe we'll go to their house and see how they like it. That's my freedom. No, it's not your freedom, brother. That's not freedom.
Yeah, and by the way, let me just be very clear. He doesn't have the right to threaten the judge's life, okay? But if he were to criticize the judge aggressively on social media, that would be totally fine. The judge has told him do that, but don't go after the witnesses and don't go after the jury. Now, last week during a hearing about Trump's alleged gag order violations, his attorney had difficulty defending him because Trump violated the gag order. One of Trump's lawyers, Todd Blanche, claimed that the former president had not violated the order, but the judge chastised Blanche that day for failing to marshal facts or legal precedent in support of Trump. Quote, "You've presented nothing," the judge scolded the lawyer, right? And then he rejected Blanche's argument that Trump's posts didn't violate the gag order because they were responses to political attacks by political adversaries. By coincidence, they also happen to be the potential witnesses like Michael Cohen. So merely characterizing every one of defendants' postings as a response to a political attack does not make them so, is what the judge said. And the judge is correct. So here is the example that I was referring to. In one post for which Trump was fined, he attacked Stormy Daniels on his website, Truth Social, reposting a years-old statement in which she denied having an affair with him. Trump added a comment falsely portraying that statement as newly discovered. Look what was just found. Will the fake news report it? The only problem is that wasn't a new statement from Stormy Daniels. It dated back to January of 2018 when she was abiding by a non-disclosure agreement that she had signed. And so she was worried about violating that and facing a lawsuit from Trump as a result. Now, during the hearing, the judge focused on Trump's lie about that statement. And so Blanche says, so that's not true. And the judge asked, so that's not true. And then Blanche responds, yeah, that's not true. And in another instance, Trump reposted a quote from Jesse Waters that read, quote, "They are catching undercover liberal activists lying to the judge in order to get on the Trump jury." And of the 10 posts in question, the one that the judge actually ruled out as a violation of the gag order had to do with what Trump had to say about Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels. In a post, he referred to them as sleazebags, and the judge said, I will allow it.
Look, I have a unique opinion on how juries should run. I think that they exclude way too much evidence from the juries because they go, oh my God, they'll get biased, etc. But what is Trump doing by taking an old statement of Stormy Daniels saying that they didn't sleep together? He's trying to influence the jury pool. It's like textbook what you are not allowed to do in the middle of a trial, right? So, but on the other hand, freedom of speech. By the way, unless you're protesting Israel, in which case you should be arrested. Okay, but that's a different topic that almost all Republican politicians now agree with. But I think the funniest part of this is that Stormy Daniels statement is exactly what Trump paid for.
That's true.
That was the hush in the hush money. So he gave her $130,000 to deny the affair. She denied the affair. She got the $130,000. And now that he's on trial for it, he's like, what? She denied the affair. Brother, you're actually kind of making the case against you, right?
Yeah,
and
that's true.
And there's now a report out, of course, Donald Trump very frustrated with his lawyers and is thinking of not paying them. Why? Because they're not putting together a very good case. Do you know why? Because there is no good case. He's giving them nothing to work with. I read the details of today's testimony. Oh, they have him dead to rights. They have all of the transactions. Here's this guy paying for that. Here's the guy who paid for it saying, yeah, we paid to make sure that it didn't get out before the election. We didn't even mind so much if it got out after the election, which proves it was about the election, okay? And then they were funneling money to her in an illegal way in order to influence the election, and they have the paper trail. All right, Donald Trump, then what did you pay Michael Cohen for? Michael Cohen and every other person involved in this transaction says you paid to keep Stormy Daniels quiet so it wouldn't affect your campaign. Nah, I went to Arby's. Okay, I made that up, but he has no good explanation. So his lawyers go out there and they flail. They just do stupid things that he asked them to do. The judge slaps them down. He's like, hello, we're in a courtroom. You have to present evidence. And they don't because they don't have any. Thanks for watching The Young Turks. I really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.